Hey babes, I'm Alexis.
And I'm Lynette.
And this is Getting the D. We are coming live from a different location today, as you can probably tell, in a little bit of a different vibe and setting. We have a really amazing guest today. It's our first guest.
You guys could probably already guess who it is.
But before we get to that, we have to do our weekly check-in. How was your week?
So if you guys watched last week, I was having a little bit of a hard time recently, just like juggling life and this new life and I don't know, having really high expectations of myself, blah, blah, blah. Spiraling a bit. But I made my way out of that funk, I would say, by like Thursday. Also, thank you for everyone that checked in. I had a couple of people text me and be like, love this week's pod. You all right?
How you doing?
You okay, Lynette?
We good? Just checking in.
So it was really sweet. But yes, I am okay. Just like having a moment, which, you know, if you're getting divorced or breaking up or going through literally anything, you kind of know that the shit comes in waves. Yeah. So my week was okay. Just like
unraveling
kind of the usual. Yeah. And like trying to like get back into some like healing work and some self-love work and just reprioritizing things for myself. So it was fine.
Yeah. Nice.
How was yours?
Okay. It was good. More weddings, a lot of weddings.
Yeah.
Lots of weddings. And actually a really dear friend of mine attended her wedding as well. And it was just so beautiful. I was saying to you, like, when I was going to weddings solo before, I would just be like, the wedding is beautiful, but I wouldn't be as like cheery and like, love is so beautiful.
Oh, you're loving love right now?
So at this wedding, just like, this is so beautiful. You can just tell they really love each other. And it was just like,
they do, though.
So I'm like, no,
they're really cute.
They really are just the picture of it. Yeah. It was so cool to watch. But yeah, being there and being in a new relationship and like thinking about him and being like, this is so nice. Like, I don't know. It's just,
I think it's fun to like look at other people's weddings and not, I'm sure her wedding was beautiful, but like just be like, oh, I would do this or I would do that or I would want that or I wouldn't want that. Even though we've already had weddings, like it's cute to like see other people's ideas and be like, oh, I love that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
especially being in the industry, I think we're like hyper aware of things that people do at their weddings.
Totally. Just being at a wedding for once and being like, wow, you really genuinely felt the love and what it's actually, that's what we're here for, you know? So I know we were talking about that before, like feeling it or not. And that was definitely one where I was like,
it was about love.
It was all around. It was all around.
That's cool.
Yeah. But that was really it for major events this week. And
yeah, my week was just like kind of the usual.
And yeah, sometimes life, it just life's, you know?
Life is lifing. Big shit's still happening, but it's just like, you know, life is lifing.
Yeah, we love that.
All right, guys. So this guest, I feel like we have been like, and then Heather's going to come and then Heather will be coming.
And then we're going to talk to Heather.
And then we'll talk to, and then when I talk to Heather.
And then Heather helped us with me with this or with you with this. Like,
and then when I went and saw Heather. So
we talk about her a lot.
I hope everyone's sitting down because Heather, we're in her presence.
In the presence of Mother.
Vibes are so high right now.
They were so high. They were, I can't wait.
Okay, so before we get into our Goddess Mother Queen, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us out so much.
Yes, like and subscribe, people. Down below. Takes no time. No money.
It takes no time.
Nothing.
Could you just do this?
Please and thank you.
All right.
Let's go.
Here she is.
Guys, it's Heather. It's Heather, everyone.
Hi.
The famous Heather that we always talk about.
She doesn't even know how obsessed we are.
I did not know until recently.
This is Mother.
Yeah.
I've had clients coming in recently telling me that they've heard about me on your podcast, which I'm, you know, beyond flattered and grateful and surprised. I mean, I knew I had an impact. I didn't know it was that big.
Oh, yeah.
But no, and I've actually been in a couple different places, and I was telling them that I was going to be doing this with you guys, and they were like, oh, we watch it. Oh, we watch it. We love those girls. And I was like, oh my God, I love those girls. Like, they're my girls. So I'm so happy for you guys. This is fun.
It really is. It's like, it's really cool that we have like a very fun space, but that's also helping people.
It's kind of my life.
Literally, right.
Yeah, no,
I try to make a fun space, and it's also helping people.
Well, I met Heather about over 2 years ago now, but I was referred by a best friend of mine.
Okay.
And it was January 2022. I'll never forget. And I texted the number and they were like 6 months. I was like, oh, but I need her now.
But I'm sorry.
I don't know if the emergency meetings were happening then or not.
Yeah,
but I don't.
They do now.
They do now. But I was like, okay, 6 months, 6 months. But I will be honest, I feel like that timing worked out in my favor in so many different ways. But it was, I think, the day after I moved out of my house with my ex into my friend's apartment. And as soon as I walked in, you were like, whoo, a lot of transition happening, huh? I was like, you can say that. And I was like laid on the table. And she was like, you moved. And I was like, yeah. And you're like, into an apartment. And I was like, yeah. And you're like, you're leaving a relationship that didn't work out. And I was like, well, technically I'm married. And you were like, no, you're not married. I was like, what? She's like, you've been checked out for like the past year. I was like,
And then the tears came and they didn't stop for
and
an
they
hour.
just didn't stop for like the next probably hour and a half, I would have said.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that sounds like a Heather session.
yeah, I was like, what just happened? It's like right out the gate as soon as you walk in, Heather just starts doing her magic and you're like, wait, what just happened? So I was so grateful that my friend of mine told me to record it because I was like, I would have not, because it's just like you just go.
I'm very fast and I forget what I say.
Yeah.
It literally it downloads through me. And so everybody's like, can you repeat that? I'm like, I don't think I can.
Props not.
I don't think I can. I'm sorry. I will try it again. But a lot of people do record it and then other people don't record it because they don't want to hear it over and over again. So it's always a preference.
Yeah.
I just say like use it for good and not evil.
Like
what I
absolutely.
I needed to hear it a second time to process.
Yeah, you say so much. So like I encourage that so heavily when I send people like record it because there's so much information.
It's like 7 years of therapy in an hour. Like literally you come in and I'm like, oh, when you were 3, when you were 15, when you were 21, this relationship, that relationship, this and this. It's almost like showing you everything that got you to that point in an hour.
Yeah, no, it was a whirlwind. I remember like,
Yeah.
I remember being like, oh no, you said to me, are you going to work after this? I was like, I am. I was like, I probably shouldn't. But I am. But I will say, as soon as I left here, I was like, I'm ready to just start telling people like what's going on because I am a hairstylist by trade. So every day I'm talking to people about my life, their life. And those first 6 months of 2022, I was like, just trying to revert the conversation on the other person and not talk about my life. And then as soon as I left here, I was like, so hold on to the chair, I'm getting divorced. Like all day, every day was like that same thing. And I was just ready to let go and like finally talk about it.
And how many people in that transition did you actually help or were in the same boat as you or like understood?
Oh my
and
goodness.
you holding it in, it totally was doing a disservice to other people that were like, oh, she has it so great, she has it so perfect, life is so good. And all of a sudden you share yourself and you're like, oh my God, like you're like me, like your life sucks at home too. Like you play possum, and he comes in the door, like, you know what I mean? Like almost like I feel like I looked up to you and now I feel like I actually can relate to you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's such a gift. Like sharing your story is such a gift.
For sure. And at first I was like, oh, am I oversharing a lot? But no, it did definitely open up a lot of conversations with people I never thought I would have had conversations with about, oh, I'm going through that, or, oh, I'm on my third husband. I know about this. Like I had no clue. So it was just therapeutic both ways, honestly.
And you helped them and they helped you. And that's like so beautiful. That's what I love about the fact that when you finally become that authenticity and you're like, I'm not afraid to be who I am, not afraid to show who I am. It like is a mirror for them to say, okay, like we relate, like, thank you.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I love that. I love when souls help souls. Like I love it so much.
Yeah. So every time I would talk about it, I always brought up Heather. I'm like, so I went to this woman named Heather. And she basically told me X, Y, and Z. And they're all like, who is she? What's her number? And I feel like I had to have sent at least 30 people. I don't even know. I just remember telling your name and number to so many people. At one point I was like knowing it by heart. I was like, here it is. And then obviously Lynette.
You gave it to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So in December, I was like, so you need to go see my girl.
Yeah. And you were like, tell her it's an emergency. And I got in really fast, actually.
We did get you in quick.
Really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was that for you?
It was so intense. Well, the first thing you said to me when I walked in, you were like, who's this young boy? And I was like, oh, my husband. Who's older than me, but maybe like, we had like caretaker roles for each other. And, but yeah, I hadn't even made a decision to get divorced or not when I saw you, but I think that a lot of like what we talked about was really validating for like things that I was feeling that then you said out loud without even knowing me or without me sharing anything with you. And it was like, no, like those feelings that you're having, like that shit's real.
Yeah.
And that was so helpful in making decisions and just kind of like not gaslighting myself and accepting like, no, my thoughts are valid. And my feelings are valid. But also like we talked about my past a lot, and that helped me understand like why I behave in certain ways and who that's tied to and ways that I can let go of things. So it helped me immensely. Like I was like, okay, this has to be at least every 6 months.
Well, and the cool thing with our sessions too is it's not just about the past, but once we get past the past, the coolest thing is now what's your future look like? Like, what are we going to do? Like it's almost like I always tell people, once you get past the past, the next step is like, I'm like a vision board and Shark Tank walking, because now I see everything coming, and how are we going to do that? And what's the next plan?
Explain like everything, this, like, what is it?
How did
What
this
is it you
happen?
do?
How
do you have this ability? How are you so magical?
Like I'm a trauma, like intuitive therapist, you know, without the degree, but I will help you with your life plan. I can help you with parenting. I can help you with it's whatever you need. Background. I came from a very trauma home life, very trauma background. There was a lot of, you know, there was addiction, there was abuses, there was, my mom had been married 3 times. I helped to raise my siblings. My dad left when I was little. You know, so it's like there's a lot of different things that had happened. I was not a healthy child, which realizing now it was more emotional than physical, but the physical kind of was what it was. And I was always kind of like told to dull your sparkle. I was always told like, you're too bright, you're too this, you're too that. So my biggest thing wasn't necessarily that I was insecure when I was little. I was too bright. So I made other people feel bad. So my mom said, dull your sparkle, you know, I had to dull your sparkle for this one, that one. So my biggest thing, my insecurities came from not allowing myself to be myself and feeling guilty for being myself or feeling guilty for having something. So it's like, you know, over time, you start to chameleon, and I was the best chameleon in the world. So I chameleon into everything and everybody. Whoever, you know, and my empathy was like, oh, how can I make this person happy? Because I'm a big believer that when we're born, we're naked, hungry, and trusting. And what happens is that we start to conform to what people make us feel like when we're little. Like, we don't have feelings, in my opinion. We learn feelings. So think of it this way. When you're born, you know when to cry when you're hungry, you know when to laugh when you're happy, you know when somebody's good, you pull closer, and you know when they are not good, you pull away. So I started to learn that people's reactions to me, and I learned how to people please. I learned how to justify bad behavior by the people that were doing it because I didn't want to upset them. I learned how to lower myself so people could feel brighter and bigger. And over time, it was one thing, and that became my identity. So I didn't have an identity. I was everything for everybody's identity. You know, like if my mom wasn't feeling well because she had her own issues, I became the caretaker because that made her happy. My mom and I did not have a good relationship. She did not like me. She had me when she was 18, and I ruined her life. And she informed me of it for my whole life. Wow. So that one part of trauma experience, whatever you want to call it, completely conditioned every behavior I ever had. But I always had this weird sixth sense, intuitive knowingness that things weren't okay during all the bad things. But I never had the power within myself or the permission to say no. I never had the permission to say it wasn't normal, it wasn't okay, because the people that I looked up to that might not have been the right people to look up to told me that the way I felt was wrong because it made them uncomfortable. So I conformed to make them happy. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes so much sense. God. It's too real.
I resonate with that.
You literally
on a crazy level. Yes.
Same.
And so that was the first step of knowing like that I had something within me but didn't understand it. So I would just finish people's sentences my whole life. Like I would just, and I realized I wasn't just rude, I was intuitive. I felt everything that was going on, but didn't understand it. To the point where I felt guilty when I didn't feel bad about something for somebody, maybe because I knew they weren't supposed to have my empathy. So I created empathy. So fast forward it, I had a car accident with a brain injury when I was 23. Wow. And my whole life shifted for years, I was so angry that I lost my 20s. Now, I had been with my husband, who was my boyfriend, who is now my ex-husband, when that accident happened.
My first husband. We smoke fake cigarettes on the pod often.
And
Heather's first husband.
and no more husbands.
Period.
Heather's only husband.
And I realized that I was looking for security that I never had found. I was independent from the day I came out of the womb. I lost all of my independence in 30 seconds. Wow. My brain injury was a closed head and brain injury. So it was like shaken baby syndrome. My brain hit my skull in different directions. I lost my short-term memory, my long-term memory, my vestibular system got damaged. I had no balance receptor, so I couldn't walk. And talk about a humbling experience.
Oh my God.
You have no income. You are dependent on somebody who honestly you've only been with for 2 years. You're in your early 20s and your whole life is like a puddle. Like you don't know what to do. I wouldn't be who I am today. And even if I would have had my kids, they wouldn't have the mom they have today.
Wow.
So it's kind of like everything happens for a reason to get you to the reason. So my gifts were always kind of there. But I believe because I sacrificed my soul, sacrificed my human, whatever you want to call it, sacrificed my 20s and the playing and the fun and this and that and whatever it was. When I was in my 30s, my ex-husband, who was my husband at the time, hurt his shoulder, and I went back to school for massage to learn how to fix his shoulder.
Oh.
When I was very smart, I just didn't let myself be smart. So I went back to school for massage, and when I went back to school for massage, I got attuned into the world of energy. And my teacher, who was amazing, Ed Portley, he was phenomenal. He was like, you have to do this. And I was like, you're crazy. I'm not doing this. However, I was on meds, really, really heavy meds for the injury. And I was masking all my symptoms. Like I wasn't getting better. So I cold turkeyed off of my meds and I blacked out for 2 days. And apparently I went like crazy. And when I came out of it, because I had tried holistic therapies in the past, very, very briefly, I went to Reiki, I went to cranial sacral, I went to biofeedback, and I started healing myself. I was retraining my own brain. So I started getting this cool thing where I would have a trigger word and a download, a trigger word and a download, which is what my work is. I will start talking to you and I just download information. It's like a computer, but when you leave, I delete you. And then when you come back, I put my hand on your knee and literally it downloads back in again.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like I've always been this person, but I think the accident jolted me to have permission to be my authentic self, my true self, which again was weird because like, I'm like, this is a weird world to be in. So then I went to school for massage. I got attuned to Reiki. And I literally lived a horrific trauma on the table in front of 15 people when I got attuned. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I don't know about this world. I don't know if I want this world. And then I was massaging people and I was like, you're going on a trip in 2 weeks down south. And I was like, they said, what? I said, I don't know. I said, that's what I was told to tell you. And then I would get pain down my leg. And I was like, what is going on with you? And they were, they had leg surgery. And then all of a sudden dead people were coming through and I was like, oh, I can't breathe. And they'd like, they died of a heart attack. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, what did I just sign up for? And it just took year after year after year for me to kind of say, maybe I'll accept this. And I'm like, nope, maybe I'll accept it. And more would happen. And then I literally was word of mouth. I never advertised. I was just in a basement of a hair salon, in Northeast Philly. And I was known as the best kept secret. And they'd come in for massages and they leave with their whole entire life in their face and talking to deceased people and healing them. And now I travel over the country and I have a 6-month waiting list and I help people heal their life.
You at the Reading Terminal.
Oh, that was so fun.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the whole thing that transpired to that. So we walk in and Lynette instantly spots you, right? And right?
Yeah.
At the gala. We just walked in and you were like, oh my God, there's Heather. I was like, where?
Oh, we were like, oh, did we say hi? Oh my God.
So we were like, we didn't even know the internal battles.
You would have thought Beyonce was there.
No, literally. We were like, we saw you and she's like, oh my God, when you say hi, I was like, no, we can't. She's out with her friends. We cannot interrupt her. Like, girl time and we don't want her to work right now. Like, I can't do this. Like, I feel like when that happens in your events, like you said before, like you feel like you need to be the showman, or you did before. And it's like all about that self-care of that. So I was like trying to protect that, but also being like, but I really want to say hi to her. And so does Lynette. So we're like, okay, let's just give it like an hour or so. And if we run back into her, like, it's meant to be. And then we did. And we were like, okay.
We had a couple drinks too. So we were
Yeah.
like,
and Lynette was like, I'm going in. I was like, okay, here we go.
all right.
You're up. And I'm like, you're like, oh my God. Instantly. I was like,
And then we got a picture together.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was so
talking
cute.
to you about your situation.
well, that's what I was talking to your girlfriends. And I was like, does this happen all the time? Like, if we're too much, just let us know. She's like, no, I feel like she wants to talk to you guys. That's great. I was
Yeah,
like,
no,
all right,
I did. I was
wonderful.
happy to see you.
Yeah.
But it does happen a lot.
Yeah.
I kind of stay in my own bubble. When I go out, people usually either recognize me or they find out what I do for a living. And then it's kind of, it goes from like one extreme to another. It could be somebody is like, oh my God, like read me. And I'm like, well, it's not like a reading exactly, more like a healing. Like, it's not just like, I'm going to like, you know, because can I like just read off the bat? Yes. But it's more about what I do is like helping you get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Like,
It seems
I always say
hard
like
to just, like,
deprogram.
If you're like at dinner or something, to just, if someone's like read me, you're like, oh, it's kind of like weird right now. Like right now.
a mid-pause.
Oh, you'd be shocked. So what happens in my head? So it's kind of like ADHD and like on speed. Like I hear things, I see things, I feel things, and I say things all at the same time.
Okay.
And I don't know what I'm doing. It just all happens. So I can kind of feel it on one side, then I'll ask one question, then I can see the video, and then this. So it's literally like everything just happens.
Wow.
So would you say it's more previous experience stuff, or do you do like future?
I specialize in the past
Right.
to get you to your future.
Okay.
So can I talk about the future? Yes. But if the past is blocking me, I can't get it.
Okay.
Which I kind of like better, because when I will talk about the future, the first thing I hear is you said this was going to happen. And the responsibility of somebody's future is exhausting.
Oh,
Right.
my goodness.
So it's like, you said this person was going to have this and da-da-da. So I had a client whose mother and her did not get along. And for 5 years, she asked me every time when her mom was going to die. When's my mom dying? I'm sick of this. When's my mom dying? So one a year, I said to her, listen, I was like, do me a favor. I said, just forgive her. Just let it go. Just forgive her. Just allow yourself to enjoy the time. I said, and every time she came in, I said, it's between Christmas and New Year's, Christmas and New Year's,
Oh, that's
Christmas
pretty
and New Year's.
specific.
Yeah, I pretty much can get seasons, Christmas and New Year's. And every time, Heather, she's still alive. Pissed off as all hell.
Like you're supposed to go kill her mom.
Yes,
What?
like
Oh my God.
I'm not even kidding you. Like
Talk
I
about
was
mommy
like,
issues.
yeah, I was like, okay. I'm like, I can't help she's alive. It's not her
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
She wrote the contract. This
Right.
isn't her truth. She comes back in and she goes, my mom's dead. I was like, okay. And she's like, thank you. I was like, you're welcome. She's like, that last year was really important. She's like, I got to enjoy her. I got to love her. I got to do this. And she goes, I wasn't happy for the first couple of years. And I was like, okay. I said, what's the date she died? She goes, December 27th.
Ew.
Wow.
Crazy.
And that's
freaks me
my life.
out.
But the fact that you have to hear things constantly,
Yeah.
like even with COVID, people would come in before COVID happened, like 6 months before COVID, and they're like, I was like, you're getting married? That's so awesome. I said, you get married in your backyard? And they were like, no. And I was like a really small venue. They're like, no. They're like, I'm going away. We're going to have like all these things. Or I'm having a 300 person wedding. And I was like,
no, you're not.
I'm like, are you sure you're really going to get married in, June? Because I'm kind of seeing a small wedding in April. And no. And they came back and they're like, we had to get married at like a small venue in our, in our backyard or something, whatever, like,
Wow.
because of COVID.
This is major stuff. Like, you could be
Yeah.
like an associate to like the government.
I know,
And
right?
like, oh my God.
And it is like, I've had like CEOs of huge companies that come in and I'm just
Yeah.
like, listen, I was like, don't do this. This person's not good for you. But and I can do all that. It's like, it's like I can see things, but then once they leave, it's like, it's done. And then other people, it's about their kids. And I'm like, okay, your child has these issues and these abilities, and I want you to work with this and that, and they act like this, and this is what you're going to do. And then other people, it's, their relationships. And so it really is completely unique every single time I work.
Are you able to let it go? Because all day, that's so much heavy shit.
So-
all day long. And to be able to like carry that, not carry that, like how do you manage
So I've got to be honest, I cannot watch the news.
that? Right.
I cannot watch anything that has to do movies with trauma, abuse. I have to sometimes, like, you know, everything's going on in the world, like I have to literally shut it off because I feel it so deeply. So I kind of keep myself in a cinema bubble. I like stand-up comedy. I like to go places. I love to go to bars and just have talk with strangers about nothing.
Until their like dead grandpa comes through, and you're like, shit.
Yeah, I tell. I'm always,
a
I'm
couple drinks
always
in.
like,
I don't want to talk to grandpa right
I'm
now.
like, all right. I'm like, shut it down, please. Like tinfoil. Like just let me be Heather.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, sometimes it happens. Like I was at an event and somebody was emotional, and they literally like stood right next to me and were just like crying. And the funny thing was, we were at the one bar and we went to the other bar, and my girlfriend's like, all right, let's go. I'm like, I have to stand right here. And then that person came over and I was like clearing them as they were crying next to me. I think with energy, like when you are really just happy to be around people and wanting to give back, and it's not about you, but it's about what you give. I think that's when you come into your most confident, your most beautiful, your most powerful. Yeah. And I think energy is a gift that we all have to exude out, where we can all be beautiful. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the exterior all the time that makes us beautiful, but it's the energy, because there can be the most beautiful person with the most ugly energy. And you sit there and you ask yourself, why can't I like them? Like they're beautiful, they're successful, but why can't I like them? It's because they're not good energy.
What is this feeling?
Yes.
What is this?
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's real.
And
yeah, I mean, I work with people, and you do too. You can like
feel very intuitive.
You are very intuitive.
I know fast.
Yeah.
Like
oh
my ex has brought friends over and been like, oh, I love this guy. He's so great, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I don't know. Something's weird. And then like a year later, he'll be like, I don't know, just not who you think they are. It's just, I feel like I can
read people.
But that's your protection.
Fast.
Like that's like a dog. A dog knows who's kind and who's not kind. They smell it a mile away. We all have those instincts. We just were taught not to trust them.
Do you think that people who have had more or heavier trauma are innately more intuitive?
I think they are at a certain extent. So right now we're in a world of opening. Like the frequencies are changing, the energy's changing. We talk about spirituality. We talk about, you know, trauma healing, shadow work. We talk. Well, guess what we do?
About it.
We raise the vibration of it. We give it power. So of course we're all opening. The people that come here for trauma are here to understand and not judge. Basically what happens is people that come from backgrounds have more compassion, understanding for people that are dark. So we see their soul more intuitively than people who don't, who are judgy, because they don't see the soul, they see the human. But in the same token, I respect them for seeing the human because they don't fall for the soul's tricks.
I was gonna say, you know, there is kind of something cool about people who just can see a person, whereas I feel like I see souls. Where
and I think
like
that's
it could
newbie.
be the worst person, and I'm like, well,
yes.
But like when I've taken care of patients who are like incarcerated or whatever, like I don't care, because I mean sometimes, you know, depending, but like you see their soul. But then there are people who like are like, oh no, but that's a bad person, and I can kind of
well,
sometimes I wish I could be like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's called detachment.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
we love that word.
we do love. We had a whole detachment episode.
Yeah.
So do you know what detachment is? Like,
Well,
tell me
I
what
hope
you
so.
guys
We really
did.
talked about it.
We tried to educate the public on it.
It would be like not tying yourself so much to the outcome of something.
It's also not allowing their energy to affect your energy.
Yes.
So think of it this way. You can love somebody who has addiction, but you don't carry their addiction as a personalization on you or who you are to them or what you have on them.
Yeah.
You can care about somebody, but you don't have to be attached to the outcome of what that relationship is. And that's kind of like the full-fledged of healing too. Once you're healed, nobody's energy can affect you, and you also aren't here to affect theirs. Like you can't change anybody. So we always attach to them thinking we can.
We literally just talked about this.
But detachment is a sign of healing.
Yeah.
It's a huge sign of healing. When you can detach from the outcome, when you can detach from the situation, when you can detach from taking it personally, taking it personally. You are at a level where it's not that you're healing, you're healed.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to remind yourself that you're arriving at where you need to go. Are we always evolving? Yes. But do we always have to heal? No. And I think that's what the weird thing is. I think everybody thinks you're on a healing journey forever. I don't agree with that. I think you are healed. You're bringing it back to be victimized so you can heal more. But you're never going to get to you're never going to heal everything that has happened to you. That's why I always say we get to the core moments of when things happen in your past that show you. But at the end of the day, you're never going to remember it all because it's an illusion now. The only person who gives it power is you. And your perception of what happens over time changes.
Yeah.
So if you're in a victim mindset, you're never going to see the full truth. So it's almost like when you can detach, you're healed. I really believe that fully.
Letting go control of the outcome completely.
And here's the thing. How many of us try to control the outcome of somebody else involved in it, not just ourselves?
All the time.
Like even a job.
Yeah.
I really want this job. I really want this job. There's so many things that have to happen for you to get that job. So if you put your best foot out forward, if you're meant to have that job, if it's aligned with you, if the connection's going to be there, if it's for your inner peace and your happiness, you're going to get it. But guess what? If there's one thing that's not going to be best for you, you're not going to get it.
Right.
And okay, let's talk about breakups. How many of us are trained that when we break up, we're supposed to be sad?
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Devastated.
I had so much guilt because I wasn't.
Exactly. And we talked about that, I
felt
think.
so
Same. I was
bad.
like, I'm actually good.
Yeah.
Okay, so society trains you that you are supposed to be sad when a breakup happens. But again, every relationship starts with a connection and an alignment. Every relationship ends when there's a disconnect and an unalignment. So when we break up with somebody, we have been silently praying that this is over or that they will change. And the truth is that they're not going to change, so they remove us from it. They redirect us, and they're protecting us from staying stuck in something that is not aligned with us anymore.
Yeah.
So a breakup is the opportunity for a new beginning, a fresh start, excitement. We're supposed to be excited about it. We're not supposed to be devastated by it.
Yeah.
The only reason you're devastated by it is because you're not in control of it.
That's so true.
Exactly. It's not
That's
what you're
the only
used
thing.
to.
And also just grieving, like you said, like a former person or
An idea of what that person you were going to have, an idea.
an
Or
idea.
of your future, like
Yes.
you're letting go of a
Yes.
future that you had expected.
Again,
Like you explained to me
expected.
Yeah.
Ideas.
where these words are so powerful.
It's not about truth. There's no
Yeah.
facts in this.
Right.
This is our illusion of perception of what
Right.
it's supposed to be in our heads.
Yeah.
But that other person maybe didn't have the same ideas.
Yeah, recently I came back like 2 weeks ago for a little, or 3 weeks ago now, but
Oh,
a little
yeah.
check-in. And like, that's what you explained to me. You were like, remember that girl like at 16 who was just this, and this? And like, you were always that girl, but you just like dimmed her a little bit, you know?
I know, we talked about
And
that.
it's just wild to think like, oh, I was this person all along, but yeah.
all we're doing is
what we did.
unbecoming
Yeah.
what everybody else told us we had to become to make them happy. And we're finding out who we are to make us happy,
Yeah. And that's the
which
goal.
is so cool.
That is the goal of the Tru Healing
It's
Center.
really cool. I don't think before my divorce, I was not even considering that I needed to do that or like it's really been such a blessing. So like things really do happen for you. Divine intervention is all around, you know,
And
I
that
think
is
that
a
this
destiny.
happening.
Oh,
So
Think of it this way too. When you were a little girl, so many of the things that you always wanted or tried or wanted to experience were in the back of your head. And those things had to happen. Things had to happen in your life to get you so they could be in the front of your head. So they became a priority because you were told that you couldn't dream. You were told that you couldn't have these ideas because they weren't practical. They weren't going to be financially stable. They weren't going to be ladylike. They weren't going to be this. They weren't going to be that. And now all of a sudden, if you really both sit there and look at your lives and where you're at now, it's that little girl's dreams that you're giving permission to live.
oh my God, like if 16-year-old Lex could look at current Lex, what would she say?
My first dream job was to be a TRL VJ. Like I wanted to be like,
Wow.
I wanted to be like in broadcasting.
Look at you
So-
now.
And it's just
Oh my
funny.
God.
No, I really did. And I had an ex-boyfriend talk me out of it and also just like be like, it'll never happen, which I know that sounds so crazy. But
Ew,
again,
I
allowing people
hate
to talk me out of things or telling
when
me how I
people
should live
say
my
stuff
life.
like that.
But no, yeah, I think again, this isn't a small scale in like a way, but it's bringing me
Right now.
at least individually so much like, fulfillment and happiness. And
Yeah.
even though I have a million balls in there, this is so incredible. And it
Yeah.
feels like right.
But think of everything you had to get through to get here, because if you didn't go through your relationship traumas and your pain and making people happy and doing all these things and then finding a way to heal yourself, you wouldn't even have the show, which is about healing others through your experiences.
No, totally.
And that little girl's dream was always going to come together because it was her destiny. It just wasn't her time at 16. It wasn't her time at 21. It wasn't her time at 24. How old are you now?
31.
It wasn't her time at 29.
No, that's when I chose to leave. Yeah.
Yeah, but look at what happened when you did everything that you needed to do to be able to broadcast your experiences.
It's so
Because you
wild.
wouldn't have been able to talk about anything if you had no experiences.
That's the thing. Like, I'm so grateful for all of the trauma of my whole life and like the divorce and everything. Like, oh my God, like really it turns you into such a well-rounded person. And like, you have to have your bad experiences to be like a cool, deep, understanding person.
So what we're saying is have at least one husband in your life. I'm kidding.
Get divorced at least once. Everyone.
And what about your 16-year-old you?
Yeah. What about you?
Oh my God, I think she'd be like, wow, she's so cool.
No.
Like badass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
like badass.
Like, would be so proud of how big I've allowed myself to be. Instead of
such a
just
big
kind of
deal.
like shrinking down into spaces that I was supposed to be in and just being pretty and sitting back and not having a really big voice. Like, I love, like, I was
we were
just
saying that you were like, I love this version of me.
I was just saying yesterday, I will, if something comes into my head, like, it's coming out. And it's coming out
Why we
big.
love you though.
And actually somebody was like, maybe we work on delivery a little
I
bit.
was going to say a little bit of compassion with the wording
I'm working on it.
and a little bit of impulse control, I think, would be helpful. But that 16-year-old you always wanted to be larger than life, and she didn't want to be in the background, and she didn't want to be told that she couldn't say what she wanted to say and be what she wanted to be. So she predestined you to fight for her.
Yeah.
Wow, we're really similar.
We learn more. Yeah, I feel like we realize that more and more every time.
Yeah.
Okay, what was that? Impulse control and delivery. Okay.
Compassion.
Noted. Compassion.
Compassion. We want to tattoo that on you somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
Well, I'm
Not
compassionate.
empathy, just compassion. Like you can feel things. Empathy is the gift the soul gives to each other, to itself. So you can basically understand somebody's point of view with compassion, understanding, but not take it on personally. That's all it is. It's not to take it on personally.
That's a huge practice for all of us and all of our things, right? Like,
Well,
each
I
of our
don't anymore.
professions.
Like I literally am just like, I can't take that room personal.
No.
And I've learned with detachment not to take it on. So I can understand it. I can have compassion for it, but it's not my problem. Worrying about it and taking it on doesn't change the outcome because it's what they're going to do. It's not what I'm going to do.
I think working as a nurse has taught me,
That's a
had
hard
to teach.
one.
Yeah. Like
That's a hard one.
you wind up having like compassion fatigue, which is very real. I worked in a trauma ICU, and yeah, you can't take that stuff home, which I think is really where I learned a lot of my detachment. But it's also why like I can be very abrasive and very cold, because
These
the
are life or death
compassion is just
situations.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's like life.
You're like,
or,
it's never that
it's
serious,
like
never
life
that
or
deep.
death,
Yeah.
but like I'm going on a lunch break in 5 minutes. So it's just, it makes it like really
Oh, yeah, it's, like,
normalizes it.
mentally-
It's very strange,
Yeah.
but I think that
I understand that though, because I have the same thing. My
Yeah.
empathy is not necessarily that I don't care about that room, but I'm a conduit. What my empathy is for is I feel like I have to see everybody and not take time for myself.
Period.
so hard. Oh my God.
Yeah, like literally like when I'm like vacationing and I don't answer that phone or I can't see that person because I have things to do, like I actually feel guilty and I feel bad that I didn't see them, because I had somebody reach out on Facebook and Messenger and they asked to see me. They begged to see me. They not even see me, just talk to me. And I couldn't get to them. And then here they had OD'd.
Oh.
They were a complete stranger. I didn't know them. And it sat with me and I felt responsible for it. And it hit me. And I had to really have like that come to Jesus heart to heart talk with myself. And I said, Heather, you're not able to change somebody's direction. And even if you were to have seen them, they still were going to leave. Like it wasn't your place to save them. But that's a hard one because I'm a believer that, like, you know, if people are meant to stay, they stay, and people are meant to leave, they leave. Like, the reason that they don't put chalkboards on tombstones is because it's stone. Like, once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And I'm a believer too. And this is how I live my life. I have to believe that I came here a day to be born and a day to die and a mission. Like I always say, I'm on my mission.
You have the greatest mission.
I have a really cool mission.
You have a really great mission. Like, holy hell.
Yours is
Who
cool.
do you turn to? Like, that's my thing. Like, since you're so intuitive, are you able to just like heal yourself? Or do you have, like, how therapists have therapists? Or like, do you have someone you kind of turn to?
So it's kind of hard for me because I already know myself. So people are like, you should be doing this. And I was like, I know. They said, why aren't you doing it? I said, not ready. I'm the best self-sabotager there was. I mean, honestly, I know, like I always said, I'm not going to open my own place ever at first. And it was like, okay, I'm not going to do it till Luke needs to go to high school. I'm not going to do it. And I always knew once this happened, this would happen. So like, even with this, like, you know, like I'm excited about this and I love this. And I know that my voice is supposed to be out there because I have like so many, I always say Heatherisms and stuff, but like, I know that there's a purpose for me being on this earth in some capacity. And I know my delivery is, you know, part of it probably, but I will always block it until I'm ready to open it. So I completely piss off my guides and my angels because I am constantly screwing with my destiny.
You're just like putting it
I'm
in boxes
constantly
until
saying,
you feel
yep,
ready.
I am the worst because everybody says have faith and trust. So I go to people, like I'll go get body work done, like I'll get massages and stuff. I go to acupuncture. Like there's all these different people I see, but like as far as like really deep work with myself, it's me.
Yeah.
Like I work on myself every single night. I meditate. I really love frequency. So like I'll put on HD frequency music when I go to sleep.
And they are really cool. There'll be like love, like self-love ones or like chillin' ones. I can't explain it.
I have them playing all the time now when I have sessions.
Okay, I never did this.
The only problem
you'd like
was
it.
is I started like I didn't realize how powerful they were. So I was literally doing sleep ones when my clients were in there. So after like 8 hours, I was dipping out. I was like, why am I so tired? And here I was frequencing myself to pass out. Works that big to like relax you.
Yeah.
It's like
They're cool.
it's like a natural melatonin to your body.
That's really neat. Okay, so you do some
I think
self-care.
I think you could get into that. I think
Yeah,
you'd
no,
like
I'm
it.
open to all the things.
But my real self-care is fun. It's mindless comedy. It's fun. It's connecting with like-minded, high integrity, like fun people. Like I love to come out of here and just be here. Like being present, like that is my therapy.
Yeah, that fills my cup a lot. Like
lot.
just like being, but again, like being with like-minded people or like high energy people, like being with you. There are a couple of girlfriends that I have that I'm like, you fill my soul so much. Like, do you ever like leave an experience with someone and you're like, oh, I am so full right now.
yeah.
And that's
feel that way
that's
with
like the most beautiful feeling.
Like, I'm gonna leave and be like, wow, fabulous. This
What a
was
great
amazing.
Sunday.
Yeah.
I know. I'm so excited to have you guys here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll be back.
You can
I'm
come
sure
We'll
this is
definitely
going to
be
have
back.
like a lot of questions and maybe for you. And
Yeah.
you never know. Maybe do a Q&A or.
Yeah. Hi, babes. It's Lynette. I am going to put a pin in the episode here because even though it seems like at this point we're wrapping up, this ending actually takes us into another conversation and we wind up talking to Heather for probably another hour just about spirituality and life transitions and divine intervention. And then we talk about our relationships and we laugh a lot and it gets a little bit grittier. So I am going to turn this into part 1 and part 2 of the interview with our queen, Heather. I hope that you loved part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 next week. We will see you then. Love ya. And as always, don't forget, like and subscribe.